and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri,
And Amy Cornell.
and we are recording our special holiday show. If you are listening to this on your podcast app, be sure to click the link to YouTube because we have a very special holiday extravaganza going on here. In fact, I guess we want to just start with really quickly before we dive into the show. Amy and I decided we were going to do backgrounds, special Zoom backgrounds that really resonated with us, right? So Amy, tell us about your background, about your little nursery, like all the lights, and it's really pretty actually.
I know I'm a wannabe plant lady, and I actually do have a lot of plants. And so I decided to go with a plant wall that had some oh, there goes a hand. Festive decorations and Christmas lights and all the things. And I love how it looks like I live in some fabulous high rise or something like that, which is not actually the case, but it's
Yeah, it almost looks like you live in a New York apartment.
yeah.
That's super fabulous. So I went with a Hallmark. This is a Hallmark background because I really want to be in a Hallmark movie. And this is actually probably a bed and breakfast run by some really handsome widow. He's making us breakfast right now, so I can't stay on this for very long.
I love it.
All the presents that you see under the tree are probably all for me because I've been a very good girl this
As
year,
they should be.
as they
As
should
they
be.
should be.
As they should be, yes. So we were really blown away by how many questions that we got. So we invited our listeners to send in questions, and we were really blown away. We actually had to sort of pick and choose which ones that we, wanted to do just for time's sake. And the other piece of this is that for some of the questions that required statistics and research and things like that. We definitely dug into that more. But a lot of these, because we really wanted to keep this kind of a free-flowing thing, a lot of these are they are just off the cuff, our answers and how we feel about certain things. And as is our kind of MO, if you've been listening to us for any length of time, you know that we have strong feelings about a great many things. So with that, um, the trends for the coming year. Amy, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, these are always so, we used to do these as blog posts at the end of the year, and they
There were
were
a
always,
lot.
I know, and they're always kind of scary too, because it's like predicting the future, which is both fun but also very nerve-wracking, because
Right.
it's like we all want to be right all the time. So this
Yes.
is kind of, but I think one of the points that I think is definitely going, and I realize this is kind of broad, but I think we're going to see more authors really leaning into really strategic book marketing that's much more personal to their brand
Mhm.
and to their readers. I think, and we say it all the time, there's a ton of books out there. It's very noisy, it's very busy. Anybody that shops on Amazon knows how distracting that can be. So it's really, I think a lot of people are really going to realize that, quality over quantity and going directly to the right people in really thoughtful ways versus just blasting it out there and hoping something sticks against the wall. I really think authors are going to start coming around to understanding the importance of that versus only viewing it as a lot more work and something really scary to start doing.
Well, but I also think that in many cases, we really don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
So in the majority of cases, we really have to be personalized and we have to be more thoughtful in our approach because there will always be services that are like, oh, we're going to blast your whatever out to 5,000 people.
Mhm.
But I just don't know that that necessarily works. I talked to an author a couple of weeks ago who got a mailing list for
Oh,
something
yeah.
all, I want to say that it was just general bookstores all across the country and was told when buying that mailing list, just send them an email and send them an email and send it, and they'll just love it. And there was literally no response from that. So I think you're right. I mean, I think the whole spray and pray theory, that's going to be something. I mean, we saw that this year, but I think we're really going to start to see that in the new year too, for sure.
Yeah, it can't be the backbone of what you're doing. I can
Mhm.
understand if you're doing a limited time discount or something like that, and you really have something timely to say, a broad approach, getting a lot of attention, giving it a shot. It can be a great supporting strategy, but it can't be what you lean on.
No, you're absolutely right. It cannot be what you lean on it either. And I also think that AI, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what Amazon's going to do because has Amazon is problematic in and of itself in terms of the AI, but there are just a boatload of books being written by AI. And I think that we've talked about this so many times in our podcast. And in fact, sometimes when we're brainstorming shows, I'm like, haven't we talked about this like 86 times? And in some cases, these conversations kind of happen within the
Right.
context of the show. Authors have really got to get mega clear on what their genre is. And that's going to come up a few times actually in this show because the questions that we got were really leaned into that too.
Mhm.
Authors have got to get mega clear on what their genre is because a lot of time, so these AI novels that are, and in some cases nonfiction books that are being written are being pushed out not very thoughtfully, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think if you're cranking out all your books on AI, you're not necessarily a thoughtful person, right? You're
Yeah.
a cheater. Sorry, can't believe I said that out loud. So I think that's also gonna be a thing. I think we said this at the beginning. I remember we did a show on this at the end of last year. We said you have to bring your A game. Now I really think you have to bring your A plus game because there's just so much competition. Um, so the number one mistake that authors make, Amy, I know this is a really tough one. Like this was for me, like when this came through, it was to some degree, it was an expected question, but it was also, okay, so we see authors that make unfortunately mistakes that are hard to rectify.
Mhm.
From what you've seen, what do you think is the number one?
Wow. I mean, this might sound a little broad, but there are there's elements to this. I would say kind of burying your head in the sand and not doing some self-education on just some of the really key points of this industry. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be a marketing expert to release a book. I'm not talking about things like that, but just really kind of understanding how the production process works, how the release process works, if you're going to be using Amazon, kind of getting a feel for what's going to be required of you in that first definitely 6 months and up to a year. I mean, I know that sounds really heavy, but, and I say that only because I think that's my biggest one because I witness how much that affects our clients. You know what I mean? When they come to the realization of
Yeah.
something that had they known before would have saved them a lot of grief and a lot of stress.
Mhm.
And so again, you don't have to be an expert in all the things, but at least do some exploring so you know what questions you might need to ask or where you need to fill in holes in your knowledge, just to have a basic understanding of what being in publishing means, in today's market.
Well, and you also open yourself up to get taken advantage of,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So one of the things I posted actually on Instagram and TikTok, I posted a video and it was literally like I was listening to this voicemail that I got, and we can go into more of that. Or actually, you can just take a look at take a look at our Instagram or TikTok and listen to it. But I had a few people that actually commented on both of those portals and said, I know authors who would absolutely fall for this.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think the more you educate yourself, the the less inclined that you are going to be to buy into something like, because it was the craziest message. I mean, first off, and it was the
right,
craziest proposition, right? And I think the more you educate yourself, the more you're just aware, just
yeah.
raise your awareness, if nothing else, right? Because we
Right.
really hate seeing authors get taken advantage of.
Yes, 100%. And I hate hate seeing people get stressed over things that it's like once they realize it was preventable, you know what I mean? Because that hurts my heart because we want this experience to be, for the most part, positive. Not that it's not hard, but you know what I mean? We want it to be positive at
Yeah,
least. And
exactly.
yeah, those kind of hurdles can be really. they can really knock you down.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely can do that.
Oh, this is funny. This is appropriate that I'm asking this one. What's the craziest question you get when talking to authors?
Um, so I'm getting a headache now. I have to show you guys, by the way, I have to show you guys. I should have had it in front of me. So this is my damn it doll. So we all have one, and every once in a while we just hit it
On the desk.
on the desk. She's like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
These are hilarious. Hallmark used to sell, which is kind of weird that Hallmark would sell something that was like a damn it doll. But anyway, yeah,
Better to
Hallmark,
throw that across the room than your computer, right?
right, right, exactly. Um, read my book and tell me what genre it is.
Yeah.
I, and I'm like, really? Like, how do you, but you would be amazed. And I know we've already addressed this in the first one.
Yeah.
You would be amazed how many people sit down and write a book and have no idea what genre it is. And then, and a lot of times what I'll tell them is I'll say, well, didn't your editor have this conversation with you? Well,
Right.
no. Well, then you
Mm,
probably hired a bad editor because then your editor is probably lame. Sorry. But
exactly.
yeah, I would say that's probably, I mean, Amy, do you have a bit more crazier one? But that really, like, read my book and tell me what genre it is. And I'm just like, there's nothing I can do for somebody that doesn't know what their genre is. Like, nothing.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one, especially considering what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you it's interesting. I think when we compare ourselves to other industries is when sometimes I think it really hits home. You would never, I mean, you would never walk into a marketing firm and say, I'm going to open a storefront. What should I put in it? And expect the marketing firm to tell you what to
Right?
what to sell and what products to create and all that stuff.
Right?
You wouldn't go to a marketing firm for that. So, I mean, that's the closest I can think of off the cuff of somebody with a book coming to us and going, "Can you read it and tell me who my audience is?" It's like, well,
I know. I mean, I know. It is just amazing to me. And look, we try not. I know that people always comment on our reviews. They say they're very honest. So we never want to be rude. We always want to be honest. So we don't mean to offend anybody watching or listening if you don't know what your genre is. But honestly, you got to know what your genre is. Otherwise, if you're going to let Amazon figure it out, that's going to be a mess and you're going to spend a lot of money on something that's never going to succeed. Okay, so listen, this is one that I'm going to let Amy run on this with the statistics on, but I just have to lose my mind for a second on this next one because I have really strong feelings about this. So one of the questions was, and I know I have two screens going on, so I have like the questions up on another one. So I'm not distracted. I'm just trying to figure out what the next question is. How much should I expect to make as an author in today's market? Right. So
okay. And
this isn't an ROI question, really. Like I get that authors want to know what ROI is. This was actually, so this author in context of this question mentioned that this was a survey that they had seen online, and it was an author survey. And every year, a couple times a year, I think, author earnings comes out. I hate the author earnings reports because honestly, nobody ever comes away from that feeling good about themselves, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
well, this author's making $20,000 a month, and I'm just here I made $50 last week. Like, what am I even doing in business? I find it very discouraging. The other reason that I find when authors talk about what they earn, I mean, look, I want all authors to make like lots and lots of money, unless you've written a really awful book, in which case then you need to go back to the drawing board because there's no way that you're going to make a lot of money with that. But the one of the things that these earnings reports are missing is context,
Yeah.
right? So the author that's making $20,000 a month, just as an example, maybe got a deal for a Hallmark movie, right? You never know. There are so many variables in author earnings. So anyway, I will shut up now and let Amy run with the more intelligent statistics. So I'm not continuing to run my mouth. But honestly, it's like, why? I don't even know that it's necessarily interesting because, again, like if I look in nonfiction and I think about, I don't know, Guy Kawasaki's nonfiction books, he's making way more than I am, and that's to be expected. The guy
Right.
gets like whatever, $50,000 to walk up on stage. There are too many variables for author earnings reports to have any kind of, in my opinion, meaningful significance. I'm done. Amy, why don't you run with the actual non-venting statistics because I
No, but you completely have a point because I actually had this conversation with an author that reached out to us recently, and it's not an uncommon question. How much can I expect to make? How much can I expect to make? We get it a lot. And I said the exact same thing. I said, well, it's really, there are too many variables for us to tell you in your, you know what I mean, how much you're going to make with your
yeah.
books. Like, I mean, all the way from the fact that I can't even imagine how many books are published every day with zero marketing whatsoever. You know what I mean? Probably the vast majority.
I would say, yeah, given the fact that there's a book published every 8 seconds in this country, I would say that the vast majority. I will say that an author can, and then I'll turn it over to you for
Yeah.
your, because I don't want to do my usual and walk all over the conversation, but I will say that if you check the right boxes as you are producing your book, so you produce a good book, you're in a you're in a genre, you know what your genre is, you're writing something that people want to read. Those are all points in your favor, and you're going to earn a lot more than the author who just decided had an idea for a book and didn't really sort of flesh it out. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, one more thing before I read these statistics. Can you tell we're
Here
like,
we go. We
well,
have
and then
strong feelings about this,
I
right?
know. And part of me is also like, I want to delay this because, or soften the blow with these. But it's amazing too, from wherever they got, here's the statistics that were from this particular, survey. So one that already says that this is a limited, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if the majority of the people in this survey are just starting out in their career, that's going to be very different as well. Those same
For
people
sure.
right now that are reporting they're only making, they're making less than $100 a month. If they were polled 5 years from now and they've got 5 to 10 more books under the belt, not to scare anybody on, your book schedule, but still, it would make a very big difference if they're doing all the right
Yeah.
things. What they're making now versus what they can make in 5 years if they keep marketing and keep at it and keep releasing books would be very different. But okay, so here's the stats from this particular survey. 46% of authors earn $100 or less. The majority, 54%, are earning over $100 a month. But then I love these ranges too, right, Penny? Because to me, these ranges make a big difference. Like these are like grocery money versus like, ooh, weekend vacation money, you know?
Right.
So authors in the 251 to $1,000 range make up 17% of the respondents, while the highest income bracket that they were recording, and this kills me, $2,501 to over 20,000. I love how that is all one earning bracket.
Weird. That's so weird.
That was also 17% of respondents. So, I mean, take with that what you will, but if you're going into this, as Penny's already alluded to, super concerned about how much you're going to make and how quickly, there's just a lot of things you need to be focused on doing right before that can really be something that you're zeroed in on, you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that leads us to the next question. We actually got a lot of the sales ones from you guys, and we totally get it. Like the sales are important. And here's the thing, like, okay, and then I really will be done with this venting, but nobody gets into this, nobody gets into this wanting to just throw a book out there and not make any money. Like we get it. But I think that, authors are often told that they shouldn't focus on sales, right? And we say this a lot. I know we say this a lot in the podcast, like I get it.
Mhm.
Um, but this one author said, what's really realistic, right? I don't want to go broke just trying to be an author. I mean, Amy, do you want to take this one since we're already on the roll of
I
I'm an
know,
author?
right? And it's true. We know, and we, these two questions, we, put them together on purpose because there is a lot of overlap. But we, like we said, we understand you're not doing this as a charity. You're spending a lot of
Sure.
time, a lot of effort. And
Yes.
if you're marketing, if you're having a good editor, a decent cover. You know what I mean? All those things are not free. Like we completely understand that. But, and we've done shows on this before too, we understand that the goal is to make money, but there are a lot of things that need to happen correctly and in the right order for that to be for that to be your main focus. Like you really have to have the ball rolling. We're talking that the upper level bracket previously before you can start. Your focus is on your earnings for each month. Like, are your earnings up to what you usually make? I mean, that is what is that, Penny? Less than 1% of
Yeah.
authors are in that position to where their
Yeah.
main focus can actually be on their consistent earnings versus all the other things that come into play to get
Right.
to that point.
Right, exactly. And I don't know. I mean, we're going to try to get through as many of these questions as we can, but that is also in here too, in terms of, how many books do you need to write to really to start to make a living, which is always the million-dollar question too.
Right. Exactly.
But some of the statistics that you have in here are amazing. I don't know where you
Yeah.
found those, but they're great.
I know 42% said I want to make money. Obviously financial drive. Roughly 19% I want my story to be told. So I mean, and we get a lot of those clients as well, actually, that say like, I just really want to get this out there because
Yeah,
I've
for
had
sure.
experiences that I think other people can benefit from. 60, almost 17% said writing is a hobby that I enjoy. We actually get a lot of those authors too. A lot of times
Yeah,
it'll be somebody that's like, you know what, I actually started this book a decade ago and I finally, and I just want to do it to say that I did it,
yeah,
and I'd like a few people to read it. It's like, okay, we love that bar. We can hit that bar, no problem.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see. A little under 15% say they want to become well known. So that's interesting. That is definitely, I guess we get all of these. I keep saying that now that I realize. But yeah, we definitely get authors. I would say this is more common with our nonfiction authors that really want something above and beyond just being an author, the recognition. It's not
Right.
always completely tied to the book as on its own. It's more of the professional status to some degree in what that book can help them get to. Um, and then actually almost 7% said other, it's like now I want to know what those other
I
ones
know,
are.
right? Now I want to know what those, yeah, now I know what those others
What
are.
is the other motivation? If you're watching, listening, and one of these doesn't apply to you and you're the other, please let us know what that is.
Yeah, now we really want to know what the other is. That's amazing. But I think that I think at the end of the day, even if you have been sitting on a book for 25 years and you finally decided to finish it, or if you just want to help somebody else who is in a situation like you were in and write a book about that, at the end of the day, we do want our books to succeed, and that is always a driving factor. I think that not the reason that we say don't focus on sales is because that the sales are it's not that you're not going to make a lot of money the first year that your book is out. Some authors do extremely well, but focusing on the actions that get you more readers, focusing on the things that helped put those breadcrumbs out there to get more people to your Amazon page, focusing on the strategies to get your book out into more places. And as I just said, in front of more people, those are the things that are going to start to add, something to your bank account at the end of the day. So that's kind of what you've got to focus on. And can I just pause here for a second and say there are a lot of, because I'm such a Hallmark Christmas movie fan, there are a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies out this year that have authors, like author stories, like authors or they're whatever, they're going to a bookshop or
Oh yeah.
a lot of people say that the most unrealistic part of Hallmark movies are all the widows, right? Just like all these widows are just like we never knew that there were so many and good looking, right? Really good looking and successful, whatever, wearing plaid, all the other things. I find the most unrealistic part of these movies is all these mega successful authors that just their first
Right.
book. Like this movie I was watching last night was actually really good. It's my first book and I'm just a national bestseller. And I'm like, really?
I know. It's
I feel
like,
like I want
stop
to
it. Yeah.
feel like I want to write to Hallmark, and I'm just like, you're not helping the cause, guys.
Yeah. Stop perpetuating this
Yeah,
nonsense.
stop perpetuating this. You really need to figure this out. Okay, so book pricing. They want to know book price. Somebody wanted to know book pricing. Where do you land on that? Do free ebooks still make great promotional deals? No. Let's move on to the next question. I'm sorry. Look, here's the thing. Listen, I used to love because I don't have a Kindle reader, but I have the app on my iPad. I used to love to get free ebooks. Like I was that person, right? A week ago, some book went on sale. I don't know what it was. It was $3 or $4, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I want to get this book. And I go to Amazon to click to get it. And Amazon says, you bought this book in 2017. What kind of a loser am I? Right? I'm like, oh, really? So clearly the book made such an impact on me. I am, look,
Your interests are consistent.
right. Oh my gosh. I feel like seriously, I just feel like such a loser.
Funny. That's good.
But the days of free ebooks or putting a book for free has really that ship has really sailed. And it's yes, there is a value associated with like readers don't necessarily value your free ebook, which clearly because I got the book and didn't even read it, or maybe I read it and I don't even know. I have to go back and be like, now I'm so super
We're
curious.
not going to let you buy it again either way.
Either way, Amazon's like, hey, loser, you already have this book. Um, I just don't. I mean, the days of free ebooks have passed. That was a surge,
Yeah,
and it was a very productive surge at that time. But now, I mean, if you're going to discount your book, discount it, but don't feel like you have to make it free, and
right.
don't feel like you have to make the first book in your series free either, right?
Mhm.
If you
Exactly.
have if you have a series, I would say lower the price of the first. I mean, I'm a fan of lowering the price of an older book,
Sure.
right? Or the first book in a series or something like that. So, yeah. Amy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. That was good.
Sorry.
No, I love it. Because
I'll
again,
let
we have so many great questions. It's so easy for us to go down the rabbit hole on some of these, but
yeah. Uh so do you want to take the next one? What's the most successful marketing you've seen authors do to promote their books?
geez, this is really hard. Um, but again, we're going off the cuff. I think the first thing that comes to mind, I am always really impressed, and every time I've seen it, the author is doing very well. So there's some sort of correlation there, right? When authors develop a world for their readers to involve themselves in. So
Yeah.
between their social media, if they have it, their website experience, the number of books that they're releasing, their branding, you know what I mean? Pretty covers that all, even when they're not in a series, you could tell it's by that author. You know what I mean? So I think it's
Yeah.
really that immersive experience. So it's not one thing in particular, but it's going above and beyond to put themselves in the shoes of a reader, a potential buyer, and say, what's going to make this extra special for them to where they really can't say no? And then they've got them hooked, because the experience is above and beyond just that one title. There's
Yeah.
more to it than that.
Yeah. And I think that to your point, I think that what you really addressed is yes, the world building, that doesn't necessarily work for absolutely everybody. But I think what you're really speaking to is the personalized nature of the marketing campaigns, right? I think the more personal you can get with your marketing campaign, the more that you're really reaching your readers, because at the end of the day, the reader is going to make or break your success.
Mhm.
Full stop, right?
Yep.
I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks and I'm recommending a lot of audiobooks to Amy.
Yep.
Some say recommending, some others say pushy as hell, but whatever. But that's where you get the reader kind of like, oh my gosh, you've got to read this book. Oh my gosh, you've got
Yep.
to read the book. That at the end of the day is a really successful marketing campaign because we've seen everything. I mean, I've had authors that have bought actually movie time. I mean, not movie time, like advertising time ahead of a movie in a theater. I discourage that.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know. People are really occupied with like last minute bathroom run, getting popcorn, whatever, you know.
exactly. And
Sometimes, go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
No,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say to your point, we had a client recently, and when you said, with the world building part, And then you mentioned the personalization. We had worked with a client recently that he had a self-help book. I mean, I know that's a general term, but on his website, he had free meditation downloads
Yeah.
that you could get. He had it was just amazing. He had so much, and it wasn't excessive. I mean, I would say honestly, he had just the right amount of free supporting content and extra components that just really made the experience for with his brand so much stronger. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He
Yeah.
was more than just the book. And I was really impressed. It was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, that is, I love that so much because then you become this hub for your reader, which I think
Yep.
is always, is always a good way to keep them and to introduce new product to them.
Yep.
Do you want to read the next one?
Yeah. Do you think authors who have multiple books do better than authors who don't?
So I would say, and I know Amy also has strong feelings about this, as we do about many things. I would say yes and no. So typically, like, and this is a really tough question to answer. So we've had authors who say, I'm going to publish one book and see what happens.
Mhm.
That's always a scary proposition to me.
Right.
Um, the multi-book author, if you have a focused brand, tends to do better because now you have multiple, let's call them pathways, right? So multiple
Yep.
books on Amazon, you have multiple pathways bringing the reader to you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to write in a series. I'm just saying, because I don't write in a series, uh, multiple books out there that they can, where they can encounter you and go like, oh my gosh, this author has more books. I mean, Amy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, there's a sweet spot. I think more books is definitely better if you're thoughtfully releasing them, if you're promoting them effectively, if you're optimizing them on Amazon as they come out, not letting them flail for a few years before going back and giving them the attention they deserve. Because we've seen that plenty of times, Penny, where people will just pump out books and not do anything with them. And that almost, I mean, I would say very candidly, that starts to work against you because then somebody that goes to your Amazon page and is looking at your author, like looking at your full backlist, there are no reviews for these books. You know what I mean? There's nothing particularly
100%.
special about these books. There's no, you know what I mean? So you can always tell when an author has been so focused on producing books that they haven't been doing their branding and marketing. And it's really hard to come back from that.
That is such a great point to make. It is such a great because we've seen this a lot. And I talked to an author. This was a few years ago, and she was producing a book a month.
Wow.
I know. And
Like, do I do anything every month? Like,
right. It just makes me feel, I know it makes me feel like I'm like, oh my gosh. But
yeah.
she had, I want to say 53 books out. And she knew her brand well. Like there was this conversation. I was really enthralled by this conversation with her. She knew her brand really well, but um, like you said, the majority of these books didn't have reviews because honestly, who's got time?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
writing these books, and she said, my readers really like the formulaic nature of my books, and that's great. But the problem with that is that now you have this segment of readers that are your fans, but I would imagine it's going to be hard for you to reach outside of that because the other readers who are unfamiliar with you are going to look at your books and be like, "Oh, this book only has one
Right.
review or two." Yeah, it's
I'm,
it's it's a slippery
yeah.
slope.
I'm always suspect of that too. Not that I believe people are lying, but when authors say, like, my
Now we
readers,
get to the real part of the show, people.
well, when we get emails where the individual is like, oh, my readers love my books. I think I can really go somewhere with this. My readers this, my readers that. I've got great reviews. And I go to Amazon and there's no reviews. I go to their website, there's either no website or no reviews. Like I'm like, where are these magical reviews appearing? Like, I want to see them. Like, I want to, because I mean, I think we've discussed this in the past, though. When authors reach out to us, my first, I mean, if the book is already out, I want to look at the book and I want to look at the book through the eyes of a potential buyer. You know what I mean? When my first impression with a book, if, you know, somebody reaches out to us and it's already out, I want to see what shoppers are seeing, what potential readers are seeing. And that's usually my first, like, okay, what is my assessment based on the fact that if I am a shopper or a reader or a fan of this genre, what am I going to think, you
Yeah.
know, when I see this book?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
when we get emails that say, you know, they go on and on about how much their readers love their book and all these great reviews they're getting, and then there's no evidence. I want to see the receipts. Like,
I want to
show.
see the receipts. I talked to somebody, this is a few years ago, and he said that because I asked him, it was the same situation, right?
Yep.
Of like, where are these magical, mystical reviews? And he said the reviews are just things that people told him and they're all in his head.
Oh, yes.
And I was just like,
Love those reviews.
yeah. And it was really awkward because I wanted to say, so what do we have to do to get them out of your head and onto Amazon?
Yeah.
Right?
The
Like,
logical follow-up question.
how is this going to work? Yeah, how is this going to work? So the reviews definitely, I mean, I think the multi-book authors, it's really hard to find a single book author who is a runaway success, unless you believe the Hallmark Christmas movies, in which case then they are all just runaway success,
Right.
right?
But you're
Multiple
right.
books, what?
No, I think you're right because I mean, again, hard facts here. If you're getting even a solid and not exceptional editor, a solid, maybe not exceptional book cover, you know what I mean? Even those things cost money. So
Mhm.
just producing your book, let alone marketing it, you're investing in your book. And to put it just on that one book to make back even what you spent in production is that's a big ask. That's pretty risky, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
there's a lot more that goes into it. But
And here's the other thing though too, and this wasn't, I don't think this was on one of the questions, but if you write multiple books and you have different pen names and you write in different genres,
mhm,
remember that those are all independent businesses,
yeah,
right? So if you have a children's book and then you have, let's say, a nonfiction book or a romance novel or whatever, those are different businesses and those required a different set of goals and strategies and all this other. So just putting that out there.
yep.
Um, what do you think about authors wanting to do direct sales? Is that a good idea? So we're starting to hear a lot more about direct sales. I mean, I get that Amazon's the company that everybody loves to hate.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think that direct sales are a bad idea. And Amy, I'd love to get your take on this too. But I
Well,
do,
and
I'm,
Penny, sorry,
yes.
just to clarify for people listening, direct sales, do you think they mean website, book
Oh,
events, all
sorry.
the
Yeah, I
things?
probably should have just
No,
dived.
no.
No, I'm glad that you stopped me on that. So direct sales means selling books off of your website,
Got it. Okay.
right? Um, I I would say that it's definitely doable. It's
Mhm.
doable, but I think that you have to ask yourself. So this is for there's in some cases authors just legitimately want to sell books off their website. And a lot of times like the meditation guy that you talked about, they're also selling additional product. So it makes sense to drive more people to their website. In other cases, there are just authors who hate Amazon. And look, I get it, right? Sometimes Amazon does stuff and you're just like, Amazon hates me. We take it, I've had that happen. We take it very personally. But direct sales takes time and we don't have, we can do we should maybe do a separate show on this in the new year. Direct sales takes time. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't know that it's necessarily a trend, but direct sales has, so you have to have a mailing list of readers who are willing to buy from you as opposed to buying from a trusted, reliable source where they don't have to pay shipping. And you would be amazed how Amazon has trained us all to avoid shipping costs. I mean, Amy, you've seen that too, right? Where people are
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, if you just spend $5 more, then you can have free shipping. But the key is there's nothing for $5. You have to spend $10 more to get free shipping. We will do it to avoid a $3 shipping charge. That's the craziest thing,
Not wild. Yeah, it's very true though.
you know? So do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that makes sense. And also part of it too, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I already turn off all the alerts on my phone. I can't even imagine if I was getting alerts that I had to package and ship a book. Like, I mean, it would be a high quality problem to have, but it's like, whoa, that's another thing too, is the logistics that go behind fulfilling orders and things like that, you know?
Right, right, exactly. Because I sell when I do virtual events,
Mhm.
I have a special like 2 for 20 book offer, and I have to ship those. And I'm always grateful when I sell them, obviously. But sometimes like I'm packing up 5 sets of books and I'm just like, this is a lot of work. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't mean to sound lazy, but I mean, let's face it,
it is. It's
yeah.
so, but no, I agree. It's one of those things, we've had authors, I think if you want to dip your toe in, like we've recommended this before and we've seen it done where you do a special edition or a signed book that's a promo, you know what I mean? So maybe dip your toe in with a special promotion or something like that just to get a feel for what it takes to really fulfill book orders and things to your website. And if you're
Yeah.
naturally awesome at it, then go for
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly. So we're very cautious, aware of the fact that y'all like us to keep our shows a little bit
Yeah.
short. We're at the 40-minute mark. Should we take one more? I know, isn't that
Oh,
crazy?
crazy. Yeah.
Like, how did we get, because this is so fun. Actually, Amy and I we could talk for 2 hours. Just not that
No,
anybody would continue to
we,
listen, but
we should have done an intermission with some like great Christmas jazzy music or something so people could go to the bathroom.
I know.
Here's your mini break from us if you need
Here's your
it.
right, exactly. Here's your mini break. Amy, why don't you pick 2 more questions for us to answer and then we'll wrap. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to all 16 of them, but then we can wrap it up.
Oh my gosh, this is
I know
so.
the pressure. The pressure. And while you're thinking about that, I should go check on my handsome widower who's making me breakfast. Just kidding.
I know, right? And I don't know if anybody could hear the sound team. The sound team was in full blast a few
Oh, I
moments.
didn't hear them.
Oh, good. That's
I didn't
better.
hear them. It would be great to see them, but I didn't hear them.
Yeah, I locked them out. They're in their office. Let's put it.
They're in their office. That's
Maybe
so
that
funny.
sounds more authentic.
So funny.
Okay, I mean, I think we get this one a lot, and I don't know if our answer will be particularly exciting, but I think it needs to be said. What's the best time of year to release a book, Penny?
And actually, you know what? I do get that question a lot, and that's a great question. And the answer is there isn't one. Now,
See, it's
the flip side of this is that um you have to so if you have a book that, let's say, that aligns with tax season, or you have a book that aligns with Valentine's Day or whatever,
Mhm.
ideally you want to launch around that time. But don't expect to launch a book on Valentine, so a Valentine's related book, relationship, whatever, on Valentine's Day and expect it just to be this major success, because I remember specifically, we did a show on this. By the time Valentine's Day hits, the world is done with Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Christmas, unfortunately. Like Amy and I both, we're Christmas crazy. We just would like Christmas to last for months and months. But once December 25th hits, it's over, right? So keep that in mind, that I think there is, I mean, but if you have a book that's not tethered to anything in particular, um, release it when it feels right to you. If you have a book that's a summer read, you better make sure that it comes out before the summer. Just saying.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Instead of it, because we see this a lot, instead of getting fixated on a very specific date, because that's dangerous, one, in terms of timing, because crazy things happen in publishing all the time. And once you
sure.
get married to a date, your world's going to fall apart when it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then you're not focused on the right things. You're just
Yep.
focused on the date.
Yep.
And also, not to, squash this for people that were really fixated on a date, but it's also just one day, So
Yeah.
that date may mean something to you. And I'm not saying that's not that, there's not some value in that and that's not worth, trying to accommodate, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody else. So when it comes to, that date, like very similar to the holiday example that you gave, Penny, it's there and then it's gone.
Right.
But there's a
Exactly.
lot more to do for your book beyond that one date.
Yeah.
So I think you made a very good point. If you have something you can tie it to, whether it's a season or a holiday or anything like that, planning to release the book ahead of that so you can take advantage of the buildup to that season, that holiday, versus the actual holiday or season on top of it makes a lot more sense. The
There's
buildup, yeah.
yeah, there's a reason that you hear the term Christmas in July
Mhm.
because and it's an old-ish marketing term, but um many retailers subscribe to that. If you want to get ready for Christmas, you'd better start your marketing in July. Full
Yeah.
stop, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would say the only other consideration is be careful about really busy times of year, just depending on your book, you know, releasing too close to the holidays, if unless you have a plan to keep hitting it hard after the holidays are over, you know, but if you've got a finite amount of time to dedicate to your book marketing and your book has nothing to do with it wouldn't be a Christmas gift, it really doesn't align with the holidays, releasing it near the holidays and expecting to get anybody's attention, that's going to be tough,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So you can release that time of year, but you got to be prepared to see it through into early the next year as well and to revisit some of your strategies just to make sure that you didn't get lost in the shuffle. And then there's other considerations to make too. I mean, there's nothing hard and fast, but if you do have the choice, I know fall can be very busy. If your demographic is likely to be parents, especially moms, fall is very busy. Back to school is very busy. So unless your book makes sense for helping them in some way while they're extremely busy, that is also can be a tricky time of year to demand attention for your book
Yeah.
when everybody's, you know what I mean? So considerations like that. And I think if you're really serious about it, you know, this is my one shameless plug. It doesn't hurt to chat with somebody in the industry, do some coaching, do some consulting, let them know what your book is about and get some ideas that of when may be better for you than others. You know, there's no hard and fast rules, but there's definitely considerations to be made.
Well, and we have, and again, not to be this shameless plug, but we have a
Oh,
mentorship
we've
program.
entered that part of it. I love
I
it. We're
know.
in the shameless plug part of the
We're
show.
in
If
the
anybody
shameless plug. Yay! Yeah, yes. And that's part of the reason why we developed it because of questions like this and questions that we were getting
yeah.
from authors about release time, which is a very valid consideration and concern. Um, so should we do number 15? What do you think? Number 15 or what? And now we have to pick, right? It's like we're picking our favorite
I know.
child. Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
can we do the quick one, like the 13th one, just because I keep doing it on accident? And I know Penny has strong feelings about this. What's the worst mistake you can make with your book cover? We won't go into like all the mistakes that you can make, but Penny has feelings about AI book covers. And I
Oh my
just
gosh, this is so funny. So Amy's hands right now are an example of what the AI book covers a lot of times look like. For
yes.
whatever reason, AI cannot get the hands right. It's the
Right.
strangest thing.
Here we go. Here's what you can expect for your book cover if you do. But I'm sorry, when we were in the green room before we started recording, that happened. We both got a big laugh out of that because we're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly, Penny said, that looks like AI hands when people try to use AI to make book covers.
Lobster hands. Yeah,
Lobster, I know, I look like Lobster Boy, don't I?
they're like lobster
Is
boy.
that
Yeah.
offensive? Okay, so that was our fake last one. Let's do the real last one.
What is the real last one?
I think you said number 15, right?
Or 15. Okay. How long should an author market a book and how long should a marketing campaign be if you're hiring somebody? This is a this is a great question. So I don't think that authors doing their own marketing. So we'll talk about hiring
Yeah.
somebody in a minute. Authors doing their own marketing, you should always be actively engaged in your own success. You should be doing something every week. If you have a job, it's a little bit hard to do it every day, but you should have a set of goals that you hit every single week. So when marketing is a conversation, when you stop marketing, the conversation stops. That's the long and short of it. Now, in terms of working with a PR firm, so we get this question a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, both when I talk to people, when Amy talks to people. And the length of the marketing campaign doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be more successful. The marketing campaigns, and I can only speak for Amy and I can only speak for AME, but Our campaigns are designed in length based on strategic, focused strategies to get this out to readers. But I've had authors who say, I really want to hire a company for 6 months. It's like, well, okay. So in some cases, maybe there's a lot to do, right?
Right.
Um, but let's say hypothetically that you have a fiction book. It's not that there's an end of the road to marketing for a fiction book, but once we pitch your influencers and we've gotten acceptance and you've gotten some reviews, we're not going to keep repitching the influencers, and there's not an infinite number of influencers to pitch. So that's where this gets really confusing for authors. It's like just because a campaign has a really long duration, typically the campaigns that we have that have longer durations are because there are a lot of strategies that are rolling out, right? And we're pacing those out over time. We've never worked on retainer. I don't know anybody in book publicity that works on retainer anymore. I think that's kind of gone out the window because honestly, retaining a book, a retainer doesn't benefit anybody. And I say this to authors all the time, it doesn't benefit anybody except for the book publicist,
Yeah.
honestly.
So expensive.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, Amy, did I explain that correctly? Because I realize
Yeah.
I have strong feelings about something, and here's my damn it doll again.
I
She's
know.
another cue.
No, I think you did. I think, how long you should be marketing, both whether you're doing it yourself or hiring somebody, really depends on how far in advance you're planning
Yeah.
and what you have available to you. If you're going to have advanced review copies, then you can start sooner. If you can or are willing, I mean, again, there's so many factors, who you're working with, if you're using a publisher, things like that. But if you can or are willing to put your book up for pre-order, that's another phase, that potentially that extends the life of your marketing, your launch campaign, if we're going to use that as kind of like, the ground zero. And then obviously there's the release marketing. So what you need to make sure happens when the book lands, especially for things like Amazon, to make sure the book doesn't get lost in the shuffle, your optimizations, things like that. Making sure you're getting books in readers' hands right away. So you start getting reviews generated on your retail page. So, I mean, if you're planning ahead, and again, all of this, there's budget, we won't go into that, but all of it, there's budget. But if you're planning ahead, you can extend the marketing timeline quite a bit. But we do get that question a lot, like, well, what if I want what if I want you to market my book for 6 months? It's like, well, that really doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you do the right things when you release a book or in prep for the release, the marketing can actually get much simpler going forward. I mean, if you just have endless money to spend, give us a call. We love that. We're happy to do, you know, your incremental monthly marketing for you. But in reality, that's not the situation most authors are in. But if you do things right the first time and for the launch and in the prep, in your crossing T's and dotting I's, the TLC that you need to keep giving your book month to month does get a lot simpler to manage.
It
But
does.
again, these phases, I'm going to mention again the author mentorship program. We've been, including it in our show notes. So check it out. Like, we address all of these phases. So if this is something you want to stay on top of, please, consider reaching out to us and just chatting with us about what the options are.
Yeah.
But truly, like it's a never ending effort, but there are ways to make it a lot easier and a lot simpler to manage.
Well, and I also think that for authors that are watching this or listening to this, and you're like, well, I don't really have a ramp up, like my publisher or just my
Sure.
book just, and sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes the publisher or the author just like, okay, well, now I'm launching tomorrow and I didn't have any ramp up. Don't stress about that because we've seen authors do very well with limited early marketing. And honestly, if it's your first book
Yeah.
and you're just establishing yourself, I'm not saying that it's a waste of money to do the early marketing because there are things that you can do. But as authors release more books, they have
Mhm.
fan bases and they have
Right.
they start to get, there's bigger sort of tribes that the author has that they can reach out to. So
And you have street cred in theory.
you have street cred.
If
Yeah,
things went
exactly.
well with your previous books, doing the early marketing with advanced copies, and if somebody gets offered the book and they go, well, let's check this person out. Oh, they've released before. Oh, their reviews are pretty good. Okay, I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this was really, really fun. We hope that you were able to join us on YouTube. And by the way, y'all, no pressure, but I'll be really disappointed if I go to my YouTube and only 4 people watch this video. Because I got to tell you, seriously, we will never do. There are a lot of podcasts out there that do video companion, like the video, like where they're in this. We will never do that because this took a lot of effort. I have a green screen behind me that fell down 48 times. So if I sneeze right now,
Clearly, I do not.
if I sneeze right now, the whole thing comes crashing down, and then you'll probably see Cosmo, who's behind me waiting
I
for us.
know, right? The Hallmark mystery is over.
The Hallmark, yeah, the Hallmark, the peaceful scene, the peaceful Hallmark scene is, and my fake widower who's making me breakfast is all
I
over.
know. So
But
yeah, turn it on YouTube. Even if you don't watch it, it'll make us feel better. Just stick your phone somewhere and you can go on with your day.
so funny. Yes. Please just humor us because we are egomaniacs and pathetic, and we will look at our numbers just so we're clear. It has been an absolute pleasure to do this. We had so much fun both prepping this as well
We did.
as putting together the show and getting the questions from y'all. This is not our last show of the year, so we've got a bunch of December shows, really exciting lineup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Reviews wherever you listen to the show, or leave us a review on Amazon on Amazon. Oh my gosh, on YouTube. And we will see you next time. Bye bye.